of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, Conversation between Narada and Vyasa, text number 37. Sutta uvacha evam sambhasya bhagavan evam sambhasya bhagavan naradaha vasavi sutam narado vasavi sutam amantrya vinam ranayan amantrya vinam ranayan yayavu yadrichikah munihi yayavu yadrichika munihi Sutta uvacha evam sambhasya bhagavan narado vasavi sutam amantrya vinam ranayan yayavu yadrichiko munihi Sutta uvacha evam sambhasya bhagavan narado vasavi sutam amantrya vinam ranayan yayayu yadrichiko munihi Sutta uvacha evam sambhasya bhagavan narado vasavi sutam amantrya vinam ranayan yayayu yadrichiko munihi
Sutta uvacha evam sambhasya bhagavan narado vasavi sutam amantrya vinam ranayam yayo yadrichiko munihi
एवं संभाष्य भगवान नारदो वासवी सुतम आमंत्र्य वीणाम रणयन ययो यादृचिको मुनिः
Sutta uvacha evam sambhasya bhagavan narado vasavi sutam
amantrya vinam ranayan yayo yadrichiko munihi
Sutta uvacha evam sambhasya bhagavan narado vasavi sutam amantrya vinam ranayan yayo yadrichiko munihi
Sutta uvacha evam sambhasya bhagavan narado vasavi sutam amantrya vinam ranayan yayo yadrichiko munihi
Sutta uvacha evam sambhasya bhagavan narado vasavi sutam आमन्त्र्य वीणां रणयन्
आमन्त्र्य वीणां रणयन्
ययो यादृच्छिको मुनिः
एवं यादृच्छिको मुनिः
सूत उवाच एवं सम्भाष्य भगवान् नारदो वासवीसुतम् आमन्त्र्य वीणां रणयन्
आमन्त्र्य वीणां रणयन्
ययौ यादृच्छिको मुनिः
ययौ यादृच्छिको मुनिः
सूत उवाच एवं सम्भाष्य भगवान्
एवं सम्भाष्यो भगवान्
नारदो वासवीसुतं
नारदो वासवीसुतम्
आमन्त्र्य विनं रणयम्
आमन्त्र्य वीणां रणयन्
याययु यदृच्छिको मुनिः
यययो यादृच्छिको मुनिः
सूत उवाच
सूत उवाच
एवं सम्भाष्य भगवान्
एवं सम्भाष्य भगवान्
नारदो वासवीसुतम्
नारदो वासवीसुतम्
आमन्त्र्य वीणां रणयन्
आमन्त्र्य वीणां रणयन्
ययौ यादृच्छिको मुनिः
ययो यादृच्छिको मुनिः
सुतायुवाच
सूत उवाच
एवं सम्भाष्य भगवान्
एवं सम्भाष्य भगवान्
नारदो वासवीसुताम्
नारदो वासवीसुतम्
आमन्त्र्य वीणां रणयन्
आमन्त्र्य वीणां रणयन्
ययो यदृच्छिको मुनिः
ययौ यादृच्छिको मुनिः Anybody online? सूत उवाच एवं सम्भाष्य भगवान् नारदो वासवीसुतम् आमन्त्र्य वीणां रणयन् यययो यादृच्छिको मुनिः Synonym Sutah, Suta Goswami. Uvacha said, Evam thus, Sambhasya addressing, Bhagavan transcendentally powerful,
Transcendently powerful.
Naradaha,
Naradaha,
Narada Muni,
Narada Muni.
Vasavi,
Asavi,
named Vasavi,
named Vasavi.
Satyavati,
Satyavati.
Sutam,
Sutam,
son,
son.
Amantrya,
Amantrya,
inviting,
inviting.
Veenam,
Vinam,
instrument,
instrument.
Ranayan,
Ranayan,
vibrating,
vibrating.
Yayayu,
Yayayu,
went,
went.
Yadrichikaha,
Yadrichikaha,
wherever willing,
wherever willing.
Munihi,
Munihi,
the sage.
the sage.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Translation. Suta Goswami said, thus addressing Vyasadeva, Srila Narada Muni took leave of him and vibrating on his Veena instrument, he left to wander at his free will. Translation with repetition. Suta Goswami said,
Suta Goswami said,
thus addressing Vyasadeva,
thus addressing Vyasadeva,
Srila Narada Muni
Srila Narada Muni
took leave of him
took leave of him
and vibrating on his Veena
and vibrating on his Veena
instrument,
instrument,
he left to wander at his free will.
he left to wander at his free will.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada.
Every living being is anxious for full freedom because that is his transcendental nature. And this freedom is obtained only through the transcendental service of the Lord. Illusioned by the external energy, everyone thinks that he is free, but actually he is bound up by the laws of nature. A conditioned soul cannot freely move from one place to another, even on this earth. What to speak of one planet to another? But a full-fledged free soul like Narada, always engaged in chanting the Lord's glory, is free to move not only on earth but also in any part of the universe, as well as in any part of the spiritual sky. We can just imagine the extent and unlimitedness of his freedom, which is as good as that of Supreme Lord. There is no reason or obligation for his traveling, and no one can stop him from his free movement. Similarly, the transcendental system of devotional service is also free. It may or may not develop in a particular person even after he undergoes all the detailed formulas. Similarly, the association of the devotee is also free. One may be fortunate to have it, or one may not have it, even after thousands of endeavors. Therefore, in all spheres of devotional service, freedom is the main pivot. Without freedom, there is no execution of devotional service. The freedom surrendered to the Lord does not mean that the devotee becomes dependent in every respect. To surrender unto the Lord through the transparent medium of the spiritual master is to attain complete freedom of life. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are towards the end of this chapter, this last two verses. This is the penultimate verse. And here it is beautifully mentioned, Evam Sambhasya Bhagavan Narado Vasavi Sutam Amantriya Veenam Ranayan Yayayu Yadrichiko Munihi. Vasavi Sutam is another name of Vedavyas. Vasavi is Satyavati and son of Satyavati is Vedavyas. Evam Sambhasya Bhagavan, having thus spoken, Bhagavan Narada Muni. Bhagavan is used for Narada Muni, Bhagavan is used for Vedavyas, Bhagavan is used for many exalted personalities in Srimad Bhagavatam, not just the Supreme Lord. So, Evam Sambhasya Bhagavan Narado Vasavi Sutam Amantriya Veenam Ranayan. So, he said whatever he wanted to ask, to the point, I've answered everything. And he vibrated his Veenam Ranayan Yayayu, and he went. Yadrichiko Munihi, wherever he wanted to go. Thus addressing Vyasadeva, Srila Narada Muni took leave of him, and vibrating on his Veena instrument, he left to the wander at his free will. This is the verse, and we have come to the conclusion of this verse. Bhagavatam is such a wonderful literature that it has got many such episodes, many such wonderful chapters and conversations which present to us the truths and the mysteries of Vedic literature which is otherwise not revealed. Like for example in this verse it is mentioned, Tadidam grahayamasa sutam atmavatambaram sarva veda itihasanam saram samudratam. What Bhagavatam does, it's a compilation of wonderful episodes, wonderful discussions which are there. And very carefully these are chosen. Saram samudratam. Saram is essence, and saram is repetitive. It is repeated to emphasize the importance of what is the content of Bhagavatam. Samudratam, very carefully picked. So this is Vedavyas. So he is telling Tadidam Grahayam Asa. So he made Sukadev Goswami accept this. Sutam Atmavatam Varam. Actually, Sukadev Goswami is not some ordinary person, but he was made to accept the conclusions of Bhagavatam because it is Sarva Veda Itihasanam. Of all the Vedic literatures, of all the Itihasas, The real essence has been picked. Saram, Saram, Samudratam. And even though Sukadev Goswami was Atmavatam Varam, he was the best of self-realized person. But he also accepted this from Sukadev Goswami, from Vyasadeva. This is what it is saying. Srila Vyasadeva delivered it to his son, who is the most respected among the self-realized, after extracting the cream of all Vedic literatures and histories of the universe. Actually, it is a very important thing to know, because Vedic literatures has got so many instructions, they are so vast, and they talk about so many different things. If one wants to know them by his own efforts, trying to read and understand the whole Vedic literature, he may get confused, and he may miss out the saram, essence. Bhagavatam is a wonderful compilation of such episodes, wonderful example of those devotees who have exhibited in their life. It is not just about some theoretical understanding. If just theoretical understanding, you find some fact book and see, okay, this is what it is, this is what it is. Bhagavatam gives real life examples of people who demonstrated this in their life, and they achieved that perfection. And one such example, we just started finishing, Narada Muni. What wonderful example is this? Saram, Saram, Samudratam. So Bhagavatam picks up those essence of those Vedic literatures which are often missed, which are hidden, which are the most confidential, and gives example of devotees who practiced in their lives and demonstrated how they can reach the perfection. Chanchalpati Prabhu gives one example that, in a city like Boston, there may be mathematics learning which is going on at different levels. Some people are learning preliminary, elementary mathematics. Some are learning very advanced level of mathematics. So, but the people who are learning those advanced level of mathematics are very few. You must be a PhD. The person who is imparting that knowledge also must be very qualified. Only then that kind of a discussion happen. But if your level is only preliminary, you need a preliminary teacher who can explain you preliminary mathematics or elementary mathematics. Similarly, these are wonderful conversations which are happening between two qualified persons, and it is coming to an end. That is why the level of discussion is also very advanced, very confidential. Rahasyam, the last verse we saw. Saram, Saram, Samudratam. So this is why we should pay attention. So what is this verse talking about? Interestingly, if we see in our life, what are we all looking for? What everyone is seeking? There is no doubt that all of us are looking for happiness. Okay, in different ways we are seeking happiness. And we have different definitions of happiness. To some of us, happiness means if we indulge our senses unrestrictedly, as much as the senses demand, the mind demands, I will indulge. This is maybe exaggeration, some of us may be not doing this, but maybe there are outside people, most of the people want some lifestyle like this, or have a very beautiful car and a beautiful woman or a beautiful man to accompany. This is what is the definition of happiness. Very interestingly, there is another form of happiness which is available when we engage in devotional service to the Lord. The Vedic literatures, the way they classify the human society is based on what that person is, what is the quest of happiness for that man, what is he seeking, what kind of happiness is he seeking. That classifies whether the person has got advanced consciousness or not. It's a very beautiful classification if you pay attention. Everyone is seeking happiness, but what kind of happiness are you seeking? What is it that is delighting you? What is it that you want to engage in? What is it that you feel, believe, you are convinced, this is going to make me happy? That shows when somebody sees that this is what I'm looking for, then the Vedic literature is telling this is what is your evolution of consciousness. In the very lowly developed consciousness, like animalistic people or animals, they go by their instincts. They just gratify their senses. That's all they know. And when human beings, when their consciousness is not developed, they also go for this kind of happiness. They want freedom in everything that they want to do. They want to just cut loose. There's a song that was very famous, right? I want to break free. What is that? I want to break free. How many of you have heard this? Never heard? A song by Queen, right? It's so popular, it just rings in the ears. So if you have never heard, you will never get. But if you have heard sometime, you will definitely get this. Those words are very popular. I want to break free. So right, people want to just break free. And the definition of freedom is, as much as I want to do whatever my mind is dictating, my senses are telling, I will indulge. Because I have gotten this understanding that if I indulge, I'll be happy. What's wrong with this? One life I have, eat, Eat, drink and marry. This is what it is. And this is what the whole world is pursuing. Bhagavatam says, look alternative things. How you can really experience happiness. What is the real definition of freedom? In this purport, very interesting purport that we had today, it is mentioned that every living being is anxious for full freedom because that is his transcendental nature. And this freedom is obtained only through the transcendental service of the Lord. Now, very interestingly, today morning there was one devotee who had to go to his place from where he came. And Prabhupada is saying that a conditioned soul cannot freely move from one place to another, even on this earth. And what to speak of one planet to another. Let's pay little attention to this. We want to travel from one place to another, or we want to stay in one place for a longer time. Can we decide it ourselves? No, we are so much constrained, restricted. The devotee who had to travel today, I was telling him, stay back. You have come here after such a long time. You should stay back and do some more service. Anyway, work from home option is there. But he is feeling that obligation that I have to go back. I have to take care of some young child and things like that. He is unable to decide for himself. Prabhupada is saying a conditioned soul cannot freely move from one place to another, even on this earth. Let's say I want to desire today that I want to go and travel inside the water. Can I go and travel just like that? I'll travel inside the water. No. I want to fly in the sky. No, I need an airplane. I need some ship. I need something to travel. I just can't travel just like that. That is why there are some bodies which are meant to travel, which are like aquatics. They can only travel in the water. When they come to land, they cannot travel freely. The birds, they are meant to fly in the sky. They can't run like, human beings. One human being is running and there is next to that one bird is also running. Cannot do that. We are conditioned even to move freely in this planet. Forget about traveling to another planet. That's why people, when they go to different planet, the scientists, they say that we got some sand or something, we didn't find anything. How will you find? You have never been there only. Conditioned soul cannot freely move from one place to another, even on this earth. What to speak of one planet to another? But a full-fledged free soul like Narada, always engaged in chanting the Lord's glory, is free to move, not only on earth, but also in any part of the universe. So coming back, when we are talking about the different kinds of happiness that people get enamored by, what is the thing that makes one person accept one kind of happiness? We know this example from Indra's fall down, which we have seen many times, and we had a drama also, where Indra was cursed to become a pig, and Indra had a big family of pigs, children pigs, wife pig, brother pigs, and relatives pigs, and they were all there in one drain, and they were busy eating stool. If you read carefully Bhagavatam in the 3rd canto, when Kapila Dev is giving instruction to Mother Devahuti, Kapila Muni is telling that before we get our next body, based on the karma that we do, or based on the desires that we have, we get a sarira which is called a yatana sarira. And in that yatana sarira, we are forced to do some abominable things. We are forced to eat stool. And that is how, and Prabhupada says, the degree or the level of conditioning is so much that even in that state we think this is happiness. So when the yatana sarira is given, and when one is forced to accept, when one is forced to eat this, he develops some fine taste. Okay, this stool is good, Prabhupada says. Maybe that stool is not good. So he develops those finer things, and he develops in that pig body also, that if I get this kind of stool, it will satisfy me. And this is what exactly happened to Indra. Indra felt he is happy in that state of, having accepted the body of a pig with other pigs, living in a drain. He thought this is what life is. And this is exactly what Bhagavatam says, is the covering potency. Our intelligence gets covered. When Maya covers our intelligence, then what happens is, this is called avaranatmika sakti. Then even the most abominable, filthy place, the filthiest of pleasure, it appears as if this is the best pleasure. This is what is the highest, this is the standard of enjoyment. This is how I should enjoy life. This is what happens. So what is the solution then? The solution, as we are seeing in this whole chapter, Bhagavatam time and again gives so many examples. You have to crack this illusion. Unless this illusion is cracked, unless one is exposed to the truth, unless one is is shown that this is what it is, we will never come out of this illusion. So how does this happen? There's a very interesting verse I wanted to say. I mean, as I was mentioning, that these are all very confidential aspects of Vedic literatures which are picked by Vyasadeva, and he has compiled this verse called Srimad Bhagavatam. This is instruction of Prahlad Maharaj to Hiranyakashipu. And when Hiranyakashipu asked, what is it? People are always driven towards, this is the ultimate thing. This is the success in life. If I can maximize my life of sense gratification in this way, then that's the pinnacle of success. People are trying in gross way, in subtle way. Some people so, some people don't. But somebody who achieves that, he is, his picture is there in Life magazine or in some other things. He is glorified. There are interviews. He captures the attention of all people. So what is the success? Here Prahlad Maharaj is telling, Tat sadhu manye. That is a success. That is the highest thing. Tat sadhu manye asuravarya dehinam. He is addressing his father as Asuravarya. Some people say that it is insulting, but it is not. Actually, Asura is the lineage, the lineage or the dynasty in which they are born. So he is the best of the Asura. Tat sadhu manye asuravarya dehinam sada samudvigna dhyam asatkrahat. We want to be happy, we want to enjoy our senses, we want to maximize our materialistic life in whichever way with all the efforts, but we are always samudvigna dhyam, always anxious. Sada samudvigna dhyam asatkrahat. Why? Because we are in this atmosphere of asat. These are all non-permanent. In this non-permanent place, when we are looking for happiness which is eternal, we will always be anxious. Sada samudvigna dhyam asatkrahat. Hitvatma patam grahamandha kupam. Atma patam. So there is one side Atma, we saw that Atma, but Atma tattvam varam. Sukadev Goswami, who has realized that self-realization, of the self-realized people, he is varam, topmost. Here Atma patam, one who is not aware of his self. Hitvatma patam grihamandha kupam. And he is sunk in this deep, dark well of materialistic life. Hitvatma patam grihamandha kupam. Banam gato yad dharimashrayat. He is telling it is actually the highest thing is if somebody goes and takes shelter of the Lord. Banam gato yad dharimashrayat. That is the highest thing. Prahlad Maharaj replied, O best of the Asuras, king of the demons, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master, any person who has accepted a temporary body and a temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and should thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This, he says, is sadhu manye. This is the highest perfection. But we are busy in our own lives. We have got this, layers and layers and layers of illusion, and that illusion needs to be cracked. And how do you crack this illusion? As Bhagavatam mentions 2 verses. One is Satam prasangan mama viryo samvido. Satam prasangan mama viryo samvido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana. When we hear from the mouth of a pure devotee, Satam prasangan, when we associate with the pure devotees, the words of a pure devotee carry the potency of the Lord. Tat Satam prasangan mama viryo samvido. So mama prasanga, when the mama prasanga is discussed in the association of devotees, viryo. There is a potency which releases. That potency, that power, that energy can crack the illusion. Similar verse is there in the prayers of Prithu Maharaj, where he says, Sa uttama shloka mahan mukhachyuto bhavat padam bhoja sudha kanalilaha smritim punarbhismrita tattva vartamanam kuyoginamna bitarati alambare. Wonderful prayer actually. What happens when somebody hears Krishna Katha? As it happened in poor Narada Muni also, who was just unfortunately born as a son of a maid servant. Sa uttama shloka mahan mukhachyuta. I was telling yesterday, the pure devotee's heart is a dham, is a permanent residence of Krishna. So when they speak, when they speak about uttama shloka, about the Supreme Lord, mahan mukhachyuta, when it is coming out of their mouth, then what happens is this vibration of Krishna Katha which is coming out from their mouth goes and touches the lotus feet of Krishna, and one drop, one saffron particle comes out of that. And that saffron particle hits us. And that hitting is so powerful that smritim punar vismrita tattva vartamanam. Otherwise a person is always asleep. कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, दुखी हूँ, मैं मर रहा हूँ, यही सब चलता रहता है. Smritim punar vismrita tattva vartamanam. Then he gets a memory, his memory back. Who am I? Why am I lamenting? Why am I regretting? What is my position? What am I after? That particle, when it hits, it's like a slap. And then somebody who's asleep, not getting up, sometimes it happens. You know, you go, Baba, उठ जा, time हो गया, अभी उठ जा, नहीं हो सुन रहा है, नहीं हो रहा है. Then some more, no, बढ़िया है, अच्छा नींद आ रहा है, बढ़िया weather है. Part one slap you give. And then what happened to me, you are saying? It's like that. So we are sleeping in our material world, in this materialistic life, many, many lifetimes. We have decided this is what is our goal of life, this is how we will achieve material happiness, and we continue in this. But when we hear from the pure devotees, those words when they come out, it's like a slap. Smritim punarbhismrita tattva vartamanam. I understand the tattva. Kuyoginam no bitarati alambare. I'm a kuyogi. There are yogis who are practicing the sense control, and they are trying to achieve this perfection. But I'm a kuyogi. I have no taste for this. I know this thing. For me, there cannot be any better benediction. So the only benediction that Prithu Maharaj is asking, that let me be there in association of devotees and hear from pure devotee. There is a very interesting book which is written by a scientist called Richard Dawkins. And the title of this book is very interesting. He says, An Appetite for Wonder, the Making of a Scientist. How does a scientist become a scientist? He says, an appetite for wonder. The scientists have that there is a hunger, there is a appetite, there is a thirst to find something wonderful. And that thirst or that hunger is so strong, intense, that they become scientists. They go after that research. They may face failures, they may face obstacles, but that appetite is still so strong that they don't give up. They keep doing that. Our Bhagavatam, our scriptures talk about of another appetite, an appetite to realize ourselves. There should be an intense appetite inside us, intense and sustained spiritual appetite. Prabhupada uses these two adjectives for that appetite. It's called intense and sustained. Actually, a Brahmana is one who's not born in the family of Brahmanas. A Brahmana is one who has got this intense and sustained spiritual appetite. How do you know that he's a Brahmana? You can see that he's ready to take some sacrifices. He's ready to sacrifice so many things for this one cause. That means he's a Brahmana. Intense and sustained spiritual appetite. If the appetite is there, sometimes it is coming, sab theek hai, yahi to chahiye, Krishna humko life mein nahi hai, humko chahiye. But after some time you go back and then who's Krishna, who am I, forget everything, let's get going with our material life. That will not help us. So we need that strong, intense, sustained spiritual appetite. Prabhupada says the mission of our movement is to produce the true Brahmanas, the real true class Brahmanas, so that they can give and share this knowledge. Based on that appetite, you can classify whether one is Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Sudra. Kshatriya, Vaishya will have lesser appetite. Sudras will probably have no appetite. They have no appetite for spiritual things. then when you know that, the classification of the spiritual appetite is how the society is formed, then Vedic literature say that there is a need for regulation. We have driving licenses. Not that anybody wants to drive tomorrow. Okay, you are a kid, you understood this is how you to drive. You get into the car and you go. You are behind the wheel and do something. You'll do mayhem. You'll do chaos. You'll do some, complete catastrophe. That is why regulation is there everywhere. There is traffic light. Why is it there? Because this regulation helps us to achieve something more. Similarly, the freedom that we are talking about, the real freedom comes by the process of regulation. When somebody regulates his life, understands what is the ultimate goal, understands the priorities, and aligns as per that, he achieves the highest perfection. What prevents us to do that is our illusion. There is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. That verse is the last part of our discussion today. This verse goes like this: Eka adbhuta samakale donhara prakas, ara adbhuta chitta guhara tamah karenasa. This verse says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu appeared. There are two wonderful reasons. Eka adbhuta samakale donahara prakas. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is in Chaitanya Charitamrita, many times it is mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like the sun and Nityananda Prabhu is like the moon. And it is a very wonderful thing that at the same time in the sky, both Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu have appeared. Eka adbhuta. This is the most wonderful. Samakale donhara prakas. But the second wonderful thing, ara adbhuta chitta guhara tanha karenasa. Whatever those darkest reason of in our heart, whatever those dark things are there, karenasa, ara adbhuta chitta guhara tanha karenasa. The first wonder is that both brothers appeared simultaneously, and the other is that they illuminate the innermost depths of our heart. Those illusions, those different misidentifications, the different misinformation about our own self, which is so strongly there in our heart, they remove it. They illuminate the innermost depths of the heart. And in the purport to that verse, Prabhupada actually quotes from Mahabharata. And it's a very significant thing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu drive away the 5 kinds of ignorance. Why a person is getting used to accepting certain lower standards of happiness? Why is he? What is that thing that he is forced to? Sometimes we hear this again and again. We understand that this is not the right thing to do, but why do we get it? So here Prabhupada is quoting from Mahabharata, and he's saying that there are 5 kinds of ignorance of the conditioned souls. Very interesting to know what are those 5 kinds of ignorance. The first ignorance is accepting the body to be the self. Often we know, we have heard this, but if we deep within, if we realize what is the cause of accepting something substandard, why are we not able to remain fixed in the spiritual platform? Why are we feeling morose when we are supposed to enjoy in this devotional life? You will see that root cause analysis of that. Somewhere we are into the bodily concept of life. And when we are in the bodily concept of life, that ignorance creates a sort of sadness or moroseness and illusion. This is how it happens. If you analyze, why am I feeling? Actually, the spirit soul should not experience any kind of na sochati na kangshati. What is that verse? Brahma bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kangshati. There is no question of lamentation. Why are you lamenting? Because the reason is we are accepting this body to be the self. Second reason that he says is making material sense gratification one's standard of enjoyment. Making material sense gratification one's standard of enjoyment. We know in Bhagavad Gita so many verses, right? The verse, what is that? Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya parhata chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidhiyate. When somebody is too attached to somehow bhoga and aishwarya, making material sense gratification one standard of enjoyment, this is the biggest problem. Then samadho na vidhiyate, the Krishna bhakti or to one-pointed attention to Krishna will not come. This is the biggest illusion. The third illusion, Prabhupada says, is being anxious due to material identification. Now, this is a very, very interesting thing. We also often take up to this devotion, process of devotion, but we find it hard that, when somebody is not recognizing us or somebody is not appreciating us, we become anxious about it. And that becomes the cause of, that is the ignorance. Where is it mentioned in Bhagavad Gita? If you see the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where this verse comes, amanitvam, adamvitvam, ahimsa, santirarjavam, that verse in that series of things which Krishna mentions, in the definition of humility, very important definition given, and the definition of humility, okay, it's not here. The definition of humility in that verse, actually Krishna says that if somebody is anxious about being appreciated by someone else, I'll read that exact definition. It's a very interesting definition. As for the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility. Humility means the one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. When you deep within you have that anxiety, oh, they didn't honor me, then that leads to illusion. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. Actually, for a spirit soul, where is the question of honor and dishonor? These are all temporary. Only when you are in the bodily designation, only where in the bodily concept of life, you look for honor and dishonor. Oh, मेरे को बोल दिया ऐसे, क्या बोल दिया? I mean, why should you carry it so much? And why do you hanker for honor? A devotee should, that is why Chitta Guhara, these are all very deep-rooted, anarthas which develop in our heart, and it creates that illusion. It doesn't allow us to, experience that higher bliss. Being anxious due to material identification. Fourth one is lamenting. Fourth one specifically Prabhupada has in the purport from Mahabharata it is mentioned lamenting. Never, there is no reason for lamenting. Oh, something happened to me, this thing. Actually, this lamentation is because of our attachment. Because of our deep-rooted attachment to something, we lament when that thing is lost or is gone. But as we said, the process of bhakti only begins when somebody has overcome this lamenting and hankering. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kangsati. Sama sarveshu bhutesu mad bhakti lavate param. Mad bhakti lavate param will come only after Brahma bhuta state, where is the question of being engaged in devotion. And the fifth one is thinking that there is anything beyond the absolute truth. So somebody who's thinking that there is something beyond this absolute truth. We know the verse, Sthavara Jangama Dekhe, Na Dekhe Tara Murti, Sarvatra Krishna Spruti, right? So there is a very interesting thing in Sanskrit. When you want to understand the meaning of a word, then you have to go to the root word. That's called dhatu. So when you go to you want to know what is the meaning of the word Vidwan. Vidwan comes from the root word vid. Vid means to know. Similarly, if you want to know what is this material world all about, why there are so many different forms, go to the root. It is all Brahman. Don't see the external form. Don't see that this is attractive, this is not, this is repulsive, this is something. Go inside this. This is what the scriptures are telling. When we see inside, when we go deep rooted into that, then we will see it is all the Lord's presence. It's Brahman. So thinking that there is anything beyond that absolute truth is actually an illusion. There is nothing. That is the supreme absolute truth. Beyond that, there is nothing. And all these illusions can be cracked, can be removed by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. The teachings of Lord Chaitanya eradicate these 5 kinds of ignorance. Whatever one sees or otherwise experiences, one should know to be simply an exhibition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's energy. Everything is a manifestation of Krishna. That's why we have that beautiful song written by Lochan Das, where we sing that Parama Karuna Pahudu Ijan Nitai Gora Chandra Savavatar Sarasiromani, Savavatar Sarasiromani, Kebala Ananda Kanda. Paramakaruna. Actually, they are the most compassionate Ahudvijan. They are the crest jewel of all the avatars. Sava avatara, Sara Siromani, and they're filled with bliss. Kevala Ananda Kanda. Our success in life is if we understand Chaitanya's philosophy, if we just embrace them in our life. In that, there is a wonderful song. Dekho re bhai tribhubane nai emona doyal data pasu pakhi jhure pasana vidare suni janra guna gatha. Dekho re bhai tribhubane nai. There is nobody else. Emana doyal data. Pasu pakhi jhure. Even the birds and the animals are getting attracted. But we are so stone-hearted. Pasana vidare, suni janara gunagatha. But if we hear his glories, understand the position of Chaitanya and Nityananda, then this heart also, this stone, steel-like heart also will melt. And the last line, samsare mojiya rohili poriya sepade nahi lo asa apana karma bhunjaye samana Kohoe lochana dasa. Samsare padiya, samsare majya. I remained in this samsara, majya, deeply absorbed. Rohili padiya, pada hi raha idhar. Rohili padiya, sepade nahilo asa. I never got any attraction or attachment to the lotus feet of Nitai Gauranga. Apana karma bhunjaya samana. And because of my past karma, I am just going through this sufferings in this world. Kohoe lochana dasa. A wonderful opportunity that Prabhupada has introduced this, worship of Nitai Gauranga, and if we take his shelter and follow his instructions, then the illusions in the heart will go. The heart which has got all these weaknesses, even after taking to this process of devotion, which is making us lament, morose, feel deprived, the honor nahi mila, ye nahi hua, all those weeds also will go. So that is why when some such things happen in our life, it is important to reflect, introspect, go through the deep these things of scriptures and understand what is the root cause of the problem. Why am I feeling this? Because for spirit soul there is no cause, there is no reason for lamenting or hankering. He is Brahma Bhuta, he is satisfied. So when that happens, then you are free to travel anywhere, like Narada Muni. You don't have to worry. There is no obligation, there is no restriction. He can travel to the spiritual sky, he can go to hellish planets, he can go anywhere. That's the power. In 6th canto also, when this Vishnudutas come, when Ajamil calls out Narayan, in the purport Prabhupada mentions Vishnudutas are free to travel anywhere. So this is what it is. Vishnudutta Das has come to Boston. Like that, you become Vishnudutta, you can travel anywhere. And this is what is possible in this human form of life, as it happened in the case of the journey of Narada Muni. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments.
Prabhu, among the 5 types of illusion, the first one is accepting the body to be the self. The third one is being anxious due to material identification. Material identification means accepting the body to be the self. So what is the significant difference here, Prabhu, the first and third one? Because anxiety is a consequence of accepting the body to be the self. But here there are two different, stated differently.
Yeah, right. So it is stated differently because even after taking to this process of devotion, that's why the definition of humility from Bhagavad Gita gives more clarity on that. Being anxious for getting honor from somebody else. You have understood that this is not, in the process of devotion, you have understood that.
Who is anxiety for honor and the anxiety to avoid dishonor? Are they the same thing?
Yes, because honor and dishonor is not applicable or relevant for the spirit soul. But when he is in the bodily concept of life, this becomes very important for him. Sometimes, even in an organization of ISKCON or in the institution, there is a hierarchy which is given. There is an authority system which has been established so that the things run properly. But in that system, imagine if you are given a service which is not something of very high importance, and you were doing something of very high importance, automatically the ego comes into the picture saying that why am I, it's as if, I've been demoted to some lower service in the mind. We should not be. That's what is expected. That is what is expected of a devotee who's engaged in devotional life. There should not be any attachment for any particular service or anything, or that honor and dishonor. Oh, now I have been demoted. The fact that I'm engaged in devotional service is the most important thing. But when we are in the bodily concept of life, we take it, we are not able to accept it, because we are eagerly anxious about, honor and dishonor. We are looking for those things, social prestige, ego, and those things. So that is why devotee has to introspect and reflect if these things are manifesting in the heart, and he should try consciously to come out of all those things. Welcome to Boston, Gyanji. Any other question?
Lot of people. So does that mean that everybody are living in illusion there?
200%. Not just, actually what drives a person in material world is all those things. Somebody, let's say, gets up in the morning and jumps from the bed, and the reason why he is jumping from the bed, because he wants to have more money somehow. He wants to accumulate, or some prestige or honor and this thing. Actually, as per our Vedic literatures, that's a very low standard of aspiration. You may get all of those, but what's the use? So, and then you may say that I'm in that corporate environment, should I also not hanker for those things? Ideally, yes, you should not. If you are, if it is due to you, it will anyway come. But when it comes, you don't get carried away by that. Don't, fly in the sky. But the answer to your question specifically, yes, they are definitely an illusion where they think that these are all important things in our life.
Okay. And Prabhuji, another question that I had, you mentioned two things from Bhagavatam to break free from this anxiousness or the illusion that we are staying in. One is to hear from pure devotees, and the other one was
taking shelter of Nitai Gauranga.
Okay.
That verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita which says there are two wonderful things why they have appeared. One is they have simultaneously appeared like the sun and moon together, and the second thing is Chitta Guhara. In the heart, the most innermost reasons, whatever the dark things are there, they can remove that. Chaitanya and Nityananda. That's what is those in the purport Prabhupada says about those 5 illusions.
Okay, so that was the second point. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Harishna, that song was very good, that Parama Karuna.
Parama Karuna, yeah.
The last word, which
Samsare Puriya, Rohili, Samsare Mujya.
There is a
Apana Karama Bhunjaya Samana.
It's like because many times we get some service, and we become because of karma or previous karma, we'll be very passionate. Oh, my things should happen first. Other thing is
secondary.
Is that our previous guna, kala, that's the reason it is forcing us? There's no sattva guna or peacefulness to do things. It becomes very passionate. And it's visible. Everyone can see, but I cannot see. It's my fault. So is that previous life's karma, or why I'm not able to change that?
Yeah, it is. So what happens is, even if you have taken to this process of devotion, since it's a process, it takes time to cleanse our heart. And the other day we were discussing when Balaram uses his plow to cultivate the land, it's a painful process. The heart, it has to be plowed by the plow of Balaram. You'll have some pain. But that is when the heart becomes clean from all those anarthas. So like that, we were conditioned up until yesterday, or maybe a few years back, conditioned eternally, nitya baddha. All of a sudden we have been exposed to this. So those don't go, those anarthas don't die so easily. But one has to stick. So adav shraddha sadhu sangha tatha bhajana kriya atha anartha nivriti. If you want the anartha nivriti to go from your heart, then the first 3 things you have to do properly. Ado Shraddha. That Shraddha should be strong, not Komala Shraddha. Then associate with devotees. Ado Shraddha Sadhu Sangha. As you rightly said, devotees are able to see, but the other person, because it's a blind spot for him. So having an open discussion, opening one's heart in front of a devotee, what I should do? I mean, what are the things that you have seen that I'm not able to overcome? Our scriptures say, Madhupandit Prabhu often says, another devotee is like a mirror to you. You don't see that. A devotee can see easily and he can detect and say that this is what is the problem, get rid of it. When it comes to him, he may not be able to do it himself. That is why this association of devotees is very important. Where some of the things that we are hearing, how do I practically implement? Not that, whatever we hear, everything is applicable to my life in my context. I have to know that. And to facilitate that, this organization is created. There are senior devotees, more experienced devotees. They have gone through this. They know the problem. They can share that. So it's not just one in isolation. Mera life mein main jo acha laga karunga. I have taken shelter of Prabhupada. No, there is a organization, institution, framework which has been created. In that framework, anarthas will manifest, or anarthas will come. In fact, for devotees who are outside and practicing, it is little harder, I would say, because there is no, the association of devotees is less, and then, when those anarthas manifest, they find it difficult to identify or rectify them. But for us, like who are staying in the temple, in the ashram, it's easy. But it becomes also difficult, painful when it happens. But one has to be patient. One has to be, has to have good listening these things. What is it that they're trying to say? And be conscious that he should make effort to overcome that. Then the process of devotion is amazing. You really experience bliss and joy. So that's why that intense spiritual appetite, sustained spiritual appetite is a key. I want to overcome this. I really want to get rid of this. I'm seeing the benefits. I have benefited so much in this life by taking up to this process of devotion. Why these small things are bothering me? What are those things? What I should do so that I can overcome this? That appetite helps us overcome these things. Is that help?
So Prabhu, just now you have mentioned, it's a continuation of what Prabhu was asking, sharing with the devotees helps, like congregation, grihasthas, anything. But always there will be a fear of criticism, when we want to share something, whatever we are going through, how the other person takes. So how to come out of that fear?
No, if you're sharing your heart, why should you be fearful of criticism? So imagine you're trusting someone. Now, when you open up in front of him saying that this is my anartha, do you think he's going to criticize you? I don't think so. Criticism comes when two people are working on the plane of ego and don't understand the other person through spirit soul's perspective. So then whatever you are doing, I criticize you instead of trying to give feedback to rectify your action. I'm seeing faults. Right? There is a difference between criticizing. When somebody is criticizing, he's doing it from the platform of ego. When somebody is giving a feedback, a genuine feedback, that is from the platform of soul. So the mood and the tone has to be different. This is how you can, so that is, I am trying to help you. So when you are coming and telling me that, these are my anarthas, I have realized I want to overcome, what should I do? I'll not, why did you have this anartha? You are an anartha man. What is it then? I'm repeating what you are telling it to me instead of giving you some solution. So, and that is not the way it works. Does that help?
So, it's I think the solution for that is we have to identify the right person, whom to approach,
yes.
Not whoever is there.
Yes, certainly. You have to see the spiritual maturity of that person before opening the heart. That is true. That's why the authority system helps, primarily. You still are not satisfied, you go and ask other devotees also, how do I act? What is this process of association of devotees? This very practical thing. Some of the things which is making our life difficult or problematic or making us, some kind of burden in our heart, we should open up. Even if it is, some worst kind of anartha, the moment you open up, you find some solutions, because, the other person can identify your problem well and can give you solution. And that works. That is how the system works here in the ISKCON. Criticism often comes, like if you remember the quote in the morning that we read Mangalarti quotes, because of comparison. When we compare with someone, so that time we think, okay, he's less than me, or his this thing is not. So comparison is the root cause of criticism, and there is another thing that Madhupandit Prabhu mentions in that. Envy, all these things comes because of comparing. Hey, oh, kaisa hai? How is he? What is your business in that? You do your part when we are doing your service, and there is a way of doing that, not like comparing and hey, main itna acha karta hu, he is not doing this. That is where the criticism comes, offenses comes, envy comes, all those comes from there. So when we stop comparing, when we think that this is a privilege given to me, I have been given this service, let me do it to the best of my ability, whatever I can do. Being sincere and trying to do it seriously, it will work. And not mind too much about, not poke our nose into somebody else's business. That's not, actually that is the worst thing. That's why some authority who has been given that task, it's a very thankless thing. The moment you say someone something, the other person feels, if he doesn't get it in the right way, he feels it is, why is he saying to me? If, that is what is happening already in the system, and then you do it amongst the peers also. You go and tell it to someone, nobody will take it rightly. So that's why we should not do it. That's not our business. You should just go and report to the authority, I found this devotee is doing like this. As a matter of duty, I'm telling. If the devotee thinks that that other person needs to be corrected or something has to be told, he'll do it. And despite that, if no change is happening, or the authority didn't do anything, don't get disturbed by that. You have done your part, be happy. I did. I informed as a matter of duty, leave it there. When you hold on to that, kyun nahi hua? Hona hai. That disturbs ourselves. That is why, if you really want to chant the names of the Lord constantly, properly, Trinadapi sunichena, tarorapi sahishnuna, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sadahari. Kirtana, inside the kirtan only will not happen. So what devotion we will do? Our life only is disturbed, this thing. So that's Trinadapi sunichena, tarorapi sahishnuna. Humility and tolerance. And mamanina manadena, not expecting any honor, but giving respect to others. Then kirtan should happen properly. The heart you should feel contented in life. Otherwise, it's something wrong in the materialistic life. Yes.
So we do many activities, we do many karmas in day out, right? Whether it is papa karma or punya karma. Based on this, if you do more papa karma, will take a lower life maybe, and if you do more punya karma, will take a better life. But this cycle goes on for many births. But the real bondage, the real freedom from these clutches, right? When it will happen? What is that?
That is the question. Krishna says, no. This whole process of devotion is that. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayasami ma sucha. Or that verse from Brahma Samhita, bhakti bhajam, what is that? Karmadi nirdahati kintu bhakti bhajam govindam adi purusham. First two lines, what is that? Do you remember? Karmani nirdahati kintu bhakti bhajam. Actually, when you take up to this process of devotion, imagine a seed which you plant in the soil, it will fructify and a tree will grow. But if that seed is fried, you fried that seed, then even if it is planted in the soil, nothing will come, nothing will germinate from that. Similarly, when you take up to this process of devotion, that karmatmaka buddhi that we have, the desire to enjoy or those karmas that we have accumulated, they become fried, they become nullified. Karmani nirdahati kintu bhakti bhajam. What is that line? Yasto indra gopam. Then? Actually, we starting from Indragopa, that's one cell living entity, to Indra. Everybody has gotten this body because of past karma. We are bound in this. But when we take up to this process of devotion, it burns that karma in our heart. What is the translation of that? Hmm.
Imbued with devotion and impartially ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's activities, of all those who walk in the path of work, in accordance with the chain of their previously performed works. No less in the case of the tiny insect that bears the name of Indragopa than in that of Indra, king of the Devas.
If you are imbued with devotion, that word is used there, imbued with devotion, then the karma seed gets burnt. If karma is not going to be burnt, we should not practice this. If karma is also eternal, out of those 5 truths of Bhagavad Gita, what is the point doing all these things? I'm helpless. Jab reaction aana hai, aayega, I'll get bound, then what are we doing? Karma is not permanent. The only thing out of those 5 truths which is not eternal is karma. It can be changed, it can be burnt, it can be finished, the effects of it. That is why we take up to this process of devotion. 3.9, what is that? Yajnarthat karmano anyatra. Lokoyam karma bandhana. Tadartham karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. Yajnarthat karmano anyatra. If you do work for satisfaction of Vishnu, then it will free you, liberate you. Tadartham karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. Yajnarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma. Any other work you do, it will bind you. The bondage only becomes stronger. But if you do this, then mukta sangha samachara. That is the hope, that is the process given by our acharyas. Full proof. Have faith in this. This will work. This has worked for many others. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna in 4th chapter. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mam upashrita bahavo jnana tapasa puta mad bhavamagata. Vitaraga, you are not the first one trying this. Get rid of this raga bhaya krodha. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya. Take shelter of me, mam upashrita. Think of me and taking shelter of me. Bahavo jnana tapasa. Many, many before you. By this taking up to this process of transcendental knowledge and austerity, they became purified. Puta mad bhavamagata. They came back to me. So why you think you will not be there? It will all happen. Jagranthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.